A large part of time management is knowing what it is you've actually got to do. So it's about drawing up a to-do list, but there are lots of different ways that we can do this. So the first thing to do when creating a to-do list is to write down absolutely everything that's on your mind that you want to get done. And don't distinguish between work or home or personal life, just get it all down, totally unfiltered to begin with. And it includes everything. So this might be working towards a supervision, lectures, it might be socializing, there might be teaching elements, anything that you have to do about dealing with finance, eating, sleeping, exercise. We always stress that those are really essential parts of your week. Relaxing, keeping in touch with other people. When is it that you phone friends, that you phone home? Washing your clothes, volunteering that you might do, working on committees or societies in college, all the bits of your week, not just the work elements. So your to-do list might have the top level things, the kind of goals where you're trying to get to, like write an essay or read a book. But chances are you're not necessarily going to do that in one morning. So what you need to do is break that down into separate tasks. So that might be plan the essay, work on the outline, develop particular areas, write the introduction, write the conclusion. Now that's much more satisfying for you because you can tick off these smaller tasks when you've achieved them and you know when you've met them, and you also know the steps that you're going to need to get there. For example, when you're reading a book, you might need to check the catalogue first to see whether or not the book's available. You might need to recall the book and wait 3 days. If you've put read book in the diary for that morning, you're not going to be able to do it. It's not achievable or realistic. So try and be specific, nail something down to, how much you're going to do, perhaps read chapter 3. It's measurable, therefore, it's something you know when you've achieved it. It's achievable because you've actually got the book in your hand. Is it realistic that you can do that in the time you've allotted? So allot yourself maybe an hour in which to go through that chapter. It might be quite knotty, quite difficult, one that you really need to engage with. And by setting that particular time limit, you know when the time's up, and then you know what you've got to do if you haven't met that particular objective. One of the biggest questions we get asked is, how do I know how long something's going to take me? I might allot 2 hours for drafting an introduction, but if I've only got halfway through after 2 hours, that then throws the rest of my day out because I've blocked out all these slots in my diary. So the best thing you can do is to keep some kind of rough log as you're going on, particularly if this is a new stage of study for you. If you've just embarked on a master's program, things might be taking much longer than they did previously at undergraduate. So you could create a really simple grid that would just have the type of task in one column, start time, stop time, and something quantifiable, the number of words you've written or the pages that you've read. There's loads of apps out there as well that you could use as well to keep track of things. Then develop a bit of baseline data. So you can find out what your most commonly recorded time, sort of the average. Look for a really optimistic time when things are going well. And then maybe your worst recorded time, days when you're just really struggling to focus. And we all have those days, so it's really important to take those into account. And then to estimate how long a task is going to take, pop the numbers into that formula so that you can see you've got your best recorded time added to 4 lots of your most commonly recorded time, added to your worst recorded time, divided by 6, because you've got 6 instances there, and that will give you your estimate. Again, as we said, you'll have good days, you'll have bad days, but it might help when you are blocking out time in your diary. So now you know what it is you've got to do and how long it's going to take you. You've then kind of got to put all that together like something of a jigsaw. It's also really important that you think about what's really urgent for you to do, and that's when it's worth looking at our prioritization video and undertaking some of the tasks that will help you decide what are the most urgent things, the most pressing things. But ultimately, what you need to do is think about how much you want to plan. Some people like to keep things really flexible, others like to plan every single hour within their day. Personally, that's how I like to work. I like to block out my diary for the day, so I know what I'll be doing at every stage. I know I won't stick to it. I know it'll have to be flexible, and sometimes I'll have to move things on to the next day, but it just helps me keep on track. So that's how I like to work in the really short term. The medium term, you might want to look at what you've got to do this week, but remain pretty flexible as to when it is you do it, as long as you keep checking and you're not procrastinating, putting everything off until Friday. And then finally, there's those who like to work across a kind of long-term timescale. I think normally you would combine this with a short or medium term, but for the long term, you do need to look at when your pinch points are going to be, when are your deadlines. If you're also in any clubs and societies, if you've got a performance or a sports fixture on at the same time that you've got to hand in several essays. So look for those in advance and then work backwards and plan your time accordingly. As we said, do block out all the stuff that you have to do, the essentials in there, supervisions, shopping, eating, protect this time and then see what you've got left. Remember that also it takes time to go places as well. So you might have an hour-long lecture, but of course it might take you 20 minutes to get to that. Or it might be that, as we've said, although you've put down reading between 9 and 11 on a particular morning, it could take half an hour to search all the journal databases, to download those articles, to get them into a format where you're ready to start reading. So remember to block that time out too. And then fill in some sort of planner. Now you can download these from our LibGuide and this will hopefully help you organise your time a bit more effectively. So we've got one for the Cambridge term starting on a Thursday. We've got that medium term looking at what the focus is for the week, the things that you have to do, the academic stuff, extracurricular commitments that you really want to keep to, things that you've carried over from last week, but also things that's quite nice if you start this week, things looking ahead as well. So do keep flexible, looking both directions. And then, like we said, also those kind of short-term plans. What is it you want to achieve today and when are you going to do it? If you find constantly that actually once you've blocked out all your time for all the basics, you just haven't got time left to do the work you need to do, it's a bit like money management. Work out where your time is going before you try and change anything. So fill in a time log, look at the patterns, be honest, are you wasting actually an hour every day by just searching the internet on stuff that you don't really need to do? Be honest if it takes you time to recover. You again may have blocked out time, but if actually after a supervision you like to have half an hour just to kind of go through it in your head, have a bit of a rest, have a cup of tea, whatever it is you do, be honest about blocking out that half hour. Don't say you're just going to seamlessly go from one task to another. And stay really flexible. One way to do this is to put artificial deadlines into your calendar. So that can be really, really helpful because then that you know that you can move those deadlines. So it'd be ideal if you'd finished your essay by Tuesday, but you don't actually have to do it until Thursday. That allows for some slippage. You can't control absolutely everything. A supervisor might move an appointment that you have with them. You might suddenly have to alter what it is that you're doing. So build in buffers. Particularly like to do this at the end of the day, the last half hour of every day. You could say, well, if I've overrun a bit, that's fine. I didn't think I'd be doing something else till 6 p.m. If you happen to finish at 5, that's great. That's a bonus and you've got some extra time. Hopefully that's been a useful introduction, but if not, do check our LibGuide for more information. There's lots of templates that you can download on there or get in touch for a one-to-one appointment with either Alberto or myself.